I am Brett, Evil Overlord Hallahan, representative of the Squelch Party.
Hello everyone, my name is Danny Haber. I'm running to be your External Affairs Vice President with Student Action, Unite Greek, and Apple Engineering.
Woo! Yeah. How's it going, everyone? My name is Joan Sherry Jones, and I am running with Cal Students for Equal Rights and About Education for External Affairs Vice President. Woo!
I'm Ronald Cruz again. I'm representing Lisa Alvarez, who unfortunately can't make it today.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, we'll have 2 questions for you guys and 2 minutes to respond for each of you. Again, audience, please hold your applause until all of the candidates have gotten a chance to speak. So after they have all answered 1 question. The first question for the External Affairs Vice President is, the External Affairs Office is chiefly responsible for lobbying on students' behalf at the local, state, and national level. How would you determine which issues your office would lobby for, and would your personal views play any part in this? How would you improve the current mechanisms, particularly community forums, which ensure students' voices are represented in this process? Again, the External Affairs Office is chiefly responsible for lobbying on students' behalf at the state, local, and national level. How would you determine which issues your office would lobby for, and would your personal views play any part in this? How would you improve the current mechanisms, particularly community forums, which ensure students' voices are represented in this process? The order for the first question is Danny, Brett, Joan, and Ronald.
As the External Affairs Vice President, I think that it's really important that your ideas do not take over what you are going to potentially be lobbying the local, state, what you're going to be lobbying for at the local, state, and national level. First of all, I think that something that affects all students is the student fee increases. I think that everybody can relate to that issue. I think that it's very important to tackle that issue not only on the state level, but also on a local level. I think that that level often gets largely ignored. Having worked in the Legislative Assistant Office, they constantly seek student input but don't necessarily receive it. So I think that it's really important to lobby on the local level to bodies such as the Rent Board to stabilize rent so it's more affordable to live in the city of Berkeley. As far as communication goes, I think that it's very important to have open forums to discuss that. Not only town halls, but making the websites more accessible to students, making them aware that these exist, making sure that they're updated so students can regularly check them. I also think that it's very important that there is a section of the website to have student input, to recommend the issues that they care about, that they want to see discussed, that they want to be lobbied for, and that we collectively decide as a student body what we are going to lobby for and what we are going to do together as one university, one voice.
Thank you, Danny. Next speaker is Brett.
Pitiful humans! Once you place me in the halls of power, I shall crush all those who stand in the way of my glorious vision for the future. Student opinions and my personal opinions shall become one, and all those who stand in their way shall be brutally crushed beneath my heel. That is all.
Hold your applause until all speakers.
Really good.
Joan.
Okay, how's it going, everyone? So I believe that student input is huge. It's a huge deal in the ACC. I've worked in the ACC for 2.5 years in almost all the offices. And so as EAVP, I would initiate community forums for different communities so they could come in and EAVP could become more collaborative with student organizations. For example, I would have people in the queer community come in and do a lobby on things they're passionate about, like queer issues, repealing Prop 8. And I would have environmentalists come in and say things that they're passionate about on the local level so that they could have their voice on the city level. I think that it's not my job to say what's important to students, but have students come to me and say what they're passionate about and facilitate leadership development so that they can make these things happen in a very tangible way. And a huge deal for EAVP is working with city issues. You know, believe it or not, UC Berkeley students make up 20% of the city. Wow. They should be lobbying on things that is important to them in this current economic crisis. I believe yes. In this current economic crisis, I believe yes, you know, affordability is a huge issue, and there's not just one way to tackle it. You have to go in from the city and make sure students have access to affordable housing, but you also have to go in on the state level and make sure that things like important legislation, like the College Affordability Act, is being passed. College Affordability Act will make sure that student fees freeze for 5 years. These are very important things that are tangible that all students can relate to, but we must not just pick one thing to work on EAVP, but make sure that we're spreading out and making sure that every perspective is heard in the student body.
And Ronald?
We in the Defend Affirmative Action Party think it is our job to say right now, before the election, what our positions are on the sets of issues. Affirmative action, winning the DREAM Act, and that the process by which students decide what their leaders will do in office is the selection. If Defend Affirmative Action Party were elected, it's very clear where we stand on a variety of issues, and I refer people to the program that all the people in DAP stand on. And I think it's important to say that also, in addition to saying what goals we have, to say how we're going to achieve them. I think if you look at the record of the past year, I think it was unfortunate that the Defend Affirmative Action Party was not in the AACC. We missed 2 opportunities. Last September, the DREAM Act, the California DREAM Act, was before Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he could have signed that bill. And it was very likely that he could have, as a moderate Republican, signed that bill into law so that undocumented immigrants get financial aid. Only BAM, and not the ASUC, or other, it was mobilizing people to Sacramento. If the ASUC had called a statewide mobilization for that day, and you built a united action with all organizations, no matter what their affiliation, with campuses across the state, to march as one, we could have won that legislation. And Proposition 8 was debated at the California Supreme Court. We know there's tremendous support for gay marriage in this state, but that was not, and we saw last November, but that was not seen in San Francisco, where anti-gay demonstrators outnumber pro-gay demonstrators. What a crock. That was ridiculous. UC Berkeley's across the bay, and half of the student body should have been at the Supreme Court. And I think as External Affairs Vice President,